Yeah, I just think finishing second in that elite group of riders, coming off the back, he's been on antibiotics recently. He's had very limited time on the bike in the last week. He's not as explosive as he was because he couldn't do weights in the winter. So he's lost a lot of what makes wow. But what is still there is somebody who knows, he's confident about it, and it's just taking it step by step, trusting this process that we talk so often about in cycling. But factoring everything in terms of his run into this race, a second place today in that elite group of riders is only good. I think there's so much to take away. Still bitterly disappointed at losing out by half a wheel. But to Mads Pedersen, I think there's a lot that he can take. And I think everybody was willing on, as positive and as magnificent a win it was for Mads. I think so many people are behind Wout, aren't they? And I think that win will come.
Yeah, it'll come eventually, and hopefully it'll be in this Giro. But, you know, there's still enough to make Wout, and, you know, he'll come through somewhere. Exactly. But as you said, that limited winter preparation, the crash he had in last year's Vuelta, it takes so long to get back on top of that. And we said earlier in the pre-show that whole off-season of not being able to do weights, that makes such a huge difference when it comes to these moments when you've got to go all out. Every bit of grunt you've got to try and win a sprint. And when it's against the likes of Mads Pedersen, you can't afford to make any mistakes. He didn't make mistakes, but he was just outpowered.
Yeah, it looked like he timed it to perfection, as you say, just outpowered by a Mads Pedersen, who is arguably on the form of his life, which says something about a former world champion. Adam, what were your standouts from the rest of the stage then?
Just how small that group was. Like, coming into the finish, we saw Arensman drop, we saw a number of riders drop, Derek G as well. We knew it was going to be hard, but expecting sprinters to be dropped on a stage like today, not GC riders, really. We don't know who is missing. We know a few riders, but not the entirety of the peloton, if there was any big riders dropped. But I think on a stage like today, when there's a group of 30 riders coming in, the next couple of days, not the time travel the day after, it's arguably harder than this. It's going to be brutal. I think the racing is going to be so hard. We expected it anyway to be very aggressive, but I think the form that Wout's in, that team on its own can really disrupt this race in terms of stages that might be a sprint, might not be. He can probably definitely make it one with his team.
We know that the first stage of any Grand Tour is a nervy affair, Matt, and we're always nervous about the crashes coming into the final few kilometres. That one affecting Mikel Landa was horrendous, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah, it was awful. Landa, we don't know the extent of his injuries. We wish him all the best, but Mikel Landa in the Giro D'Italia has had awful luck in the past. A few years ago in the wet, he hit a lamppost. Here's the crash, unfortunately, again. He's already got over the edge. That's Corbin Strong on the deck for Israel. Also, Jay Vine was caught behind it. Another rider comes down as well. I think it's Gouchard, from Aegis, Bouchard. But awful to see. I mean, it's unfortunately crashes do happen, but I mean, some riders have just got awful luck. But Landa, let's hope he's okay. And of course, this crash earlier on as well from Juan Ayuso, an innocuous crash on a roundabout, could have spelt the end of his Giro. We talked about it in commentary. This sport, you are perpetually on a knife edge, aren't you? The margins between success and failure are always narrow, and today was a stark reminder of that.
Yeah, it can happen anywhere along the course, and one moment of concentration lapse and down you go. Luckily for Ayuso, looked to be without consequences. I mean, ripped shorts and a tiny bit of skin off, but other than that, he seems fine. But it's maybe a good reminder for him and his team very early in this Giro, being without consequences, a reminder that you've got to pay attention. You can't sit too far back in the bunch, and when you're coming back through, you've just got to give yourself so much room and try and negate all the risks involved in passing the peloton again. It can happen absolutely anywhere.
Isn't it incredible the difference with Tadej Pogačar in a team to not being in a team? Like, you hardly see UAE today. You put Tadej Pogačar in there, you never stop seeing him. You can see the whole team, but just because he's not there, it's almost like they're a different team completely. But they've got exactly the same role.
The different ambitions for the day, the different realistic targets for the day as well, I guess.
I'd still say if Tadej was there today, that he'd still been right at the front, riding on the front.
Well, because he'd be going for the stage win, wouldn't he have been?
I think you're right. It's a small detail, but it's a really interesting one. When you look at that final set of 30 riders going over the top of the climb, you had Yates riding on his own, you had Del Toro riding on his own. They weren't riding as a collective. I think there's two reasons for that. I think there's definitely not division in the team, but there's ambiguity in terms of who's the leader. But also, it's testament to the pace that was being set by Lidl-Trek on that climb. There were GC riders dropped, as we've just discussed, and also there was riders on the very limit. So colour blocking wasn't even a thought; it was just holding the wheel.
I think that's the thing with it. With Ayuso, they're all being a bit separate. GC riders being dropped, you want to know where your GC leader is. And as you said, there was a couple of riders in front of him from his team and not many behind. So the riders that are behind him are behind because they're probably getting dropped. It's the riders that are in front of him, he needs behind him or right in front of him to have that communication, because otherwise you stop in looking, don't know where they are. But yeah, small detail as you say, but it's very, very interesting if that carries on through this whole Giro.
And I guess as well, it's easy to be a united team around Tadej Pogačar. We think that having a plan B or a double plan A is an advantage to a team, but not necessarily, because then you don't have that one cohesive ambition at the start of the day and during the day even.
Yeah, but I mean, even with Adam and Ayuso, you know, like 2 riders to protect, it's not that difficult on a stage like this. Like, it's hard, which makes it easier for the likes of Adam Yates, Ayuso to ride towards the front. They should be able to ride on a climb a lot easier. But the team just seemed dismantled a little bit. They were all over the show today and not really all as one, which is just very different for UAE to what we normally see from them, and especially the race we've just seen with Tadej now.
I think today's a shock to the system to a lot of riders. Like, okay, wow. We've really, the tone has been set already on stage 1. There's no real time to bed in. The race has exploded. There's a lot to pick apart and look at already in this race, which is a lot of fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah,
there's a lot
of problems.
I'd say so. You like Arensman.
Yeah.
You know, they wouldn't have expected that to happen today, and it's back to, OK, what do we do now? 30k time trial tomorrow. We're not going to lose a lot of time. We're not really going to gain any time. The next day, it's a hang-on day again for the likes of the GC riders like today. So it's really a case of we need to take day by day and not lose any more time.
It's so hard to go into an entire 3-week race with a game plan. By the end of stage 1, you might be already rethinking that, ripping it up and starting again.